This is another super simple block to cut and to piece called Rosebud, and it's 12-inch finished. Here's what it looks like. We have 3 patches and they're all half square triangles. Here's what the block looks like when they're set block to block in a scrappy way. For patch A, it's a 2-inch finished half square triangle, and we're going to cut 4 patches and 4 squares of the red fabric. To cut the squares, we cut 2 7/8 inch squares. We leave them in squares. We'll have 4 squares of the red, and then we'll take 2 more, cut 2 7/8 inch squares, cut them in half diagonally. Then we'll have 4 patches. So for the red, we're going to have 4 patches and 4 squares. And that's what this looks like. Here are the 4 squares, and here are the 4 patches. For the background fabric, we need 8 patches or 4 squares. So here are the 4 squares. We're going to do the half square triangles 2 at a time. So these squares, the background and the red fabric, will be paired together to make 2 at a time half square triangles. And these leftover red half square triangles will be to fill in to make the unit. So that's why we have some squares and some patches. If you're using your Quilt, you will cut all patches. You'll cut 12 patches of the red and 8 patches of the background fabric. Patch B is a 6-inch finished half square triangle, and we will cut patches for this. We'll need 4 patches of the background fabric. So we'll cut 6 7/8 inch squares and cut them in half once diagonally for 2 patches. So for 4 patches, we'll need to cut 2 squares, cut each in half once diagonally for our 4 patches. We're going to do the same thing for patch C, which is a 4-inch finished half square triangle. You'll cut 2 squares at 4 7/8 inches and subcut each square once on the diagonal to have our 4 patches for the blue. And here are the Quilt dies if you want to use Quilt. And when you're using the Quilt, you're cutting patches. We're going to start by putting the half square triangles together, and then we'll make the corner units and piece the block. Here are the other fabrics I have chosen. We looked at these for patch A. This is patch B and patch C, and we have half square triangles cut in patches. So the first thing we'll do is take these squares, these 4 sets of squares, and we're going to make half square triangles 2 at a time. And if you're not familiar with this, stay tuned for a short tutorial on how to do this. On the back side of the light fabric, we're going to draw a diagonal line, put the fabrics together, right sides together, and we're going to stitch on either side of the diagonal line. Here is the diagonal line drawn, and then the stitching on both sides. Now we cut this in half along the diagonal line. Then we have our 2 half square triangles. Press the seams open and cut off the nubs. When all the half square triangles are sewn, there's 8 of them, we're going to sew them together in pairs, and we'll have 4 like this. Next, we'll take one of the patches, and we're going to sew this next to it. Flip this over and match this side and this side. And then I like to flip it over to put it into my machine because I don't like to start sewing at this point. I like to start sewing at the corner. Then stitch your 1/4 inch and press your seams open. You will get this. You'll get 4 units like this. There's a little nub here, and we're just going to cut it off straight along this edge here. Then you'll have 4 of these. Now you'll have 4 of these units. You'll have 4 of these units, so we'll take a C unit and stitch it like this. Flip this over and match the sides, these 2 sides, and this one I'll turn this way and stitch a 1/4 inch down here. Here is one that's stitched. If you can see where this ends up, if this is folded over like this, the stitching comes out in this V right here. And then when you press your seams open, then you'll have a nice straight edge this way. We'll go ahead and cut this nub off. And here's your unit. Next, we'll take the B unit and sew it together like this. Flip this over, and you should be able to match all three sides. They should all be pretty much the same. And then you'll stitch 1/4 of an inch along this long side. Press your seams open. Then you'll have this unit. The 2 diagonal corners here, you'll have to cut these nubs off. And after you've done that, we'll have 4 of these units and we'll piece them together in a block. Here are our 4 corner units, and we'll just put them together. Sew these together and these together. Press them, then sew the rows together, and your block is finished. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new videos come out. And thank you for watching.